Yo, what it do, guys, and welcome back to another video. Now in today's video we're going to be taking a closer look at one of the companions that I use an awful lot, and it's very much a go-to for quite a lot of my builds because of the utility and variety that this one companion does itself. Now just before I go and jump into it, if you are looking for a battle companion that is killing everything and purposely trying to be the carry, you know, Verglass setups, contagious bonds, so forth, that is not what you're going to be looking for inside this video. I'm just going to let you guys know that straight away. This is more a utility one that can do multiple different things that if you're looking for a good background companion to go ahead and support significantly in a lot of what you're doing, then this one basically does the job. So this is the Diriga Companion right here. Now, let's go ahead and just get straight in towards this build, and then I'll go and show you what this looks like in a bit as well, okay? So, now as for its build and what it's doing, we're going to click upgrades here. We've got the build over here. Let's go and run down everything that we're going to be doing. So to go and start things off with, we're going to go and want to make sure that it itself attacks, right? So we're going to go and put in the arc coil. Now, arc coil basically states the sentinel will zap up to 7 enemies within 10 meters, dealing 100 electricity damage with a 10% status chance. Now, the status chance is obviously quite low there, so you're not guaranteed the electric status proc. Tesla chain's going to proc, but what is nice is that it can hit up to multiple enemies with a 10-meter threshold, so that is already looking pretty nifty. Now, what do we know about things like this is that we call these preset mods. If I hover over that, you see like the little icon there on the right hand side. Well, these are preset mods. So if we go and read manifold bond, it's going to be like one of the core things that you will need for the build along with arc coil is companion preset mods apply status effects from companion weapons. So that basically means if we go and take elements or statuses on the weapon, it will then basically carry over into this. So this will now be also dealing cold or radiation or whatever you're going to be applying, okay? Now, furthermore, if we kill enemies with 3 or more unique status effects, it reduces companion ability cooldowns for 3 seconds. Now, that is going to be important because with inside this kit, it doesn't look like it, but there is actually something inside this kit that needs a cooldown quite heavily, actually. So we'll go and get to that in a moment, okay? So these two are going to be very core for what I'm going to be doing, which is essentially going to be priming, okay? Now, what I'm going to go and do is I'm going to be using the burst laser prime. The reason why I'm using this is because it inherently has IPS, so that's 3 elements, but it's also got relatively decent critical chance, which will, I think it's like 20%, which will allow me to go ahead and do something else in a moment. So I'll keep cycling back and forth here. So what I'm going to go and do is not only do I have IPS, but I'm also going to have magnetic, I'm going to have radiation, I'm going to go and have a combination of viral, and I'm going to go ahead and have heat. Now, do go and keep in mind, this is more utility heavy, so I'm not really going to typically run this with heat inherit builds. If you are running the heat inherit builds, take this thing off ASAP. You can put in electric here if you want to or whatever else, but just do not have heat for a heat inherit build. Besides that, everything else there in terms of elements, those are the 5 that I would go ahead and recommend, okay? Now, in terms of it attacking, what it's going to end up doing now is if we go and summon some enemies, you can go and see what this looks like when it's zapping. So it's going to go ahead and do something called primer and priming. So as you can go and see, A, how quick it's applying them, B, how effortless this is to go ahead and get all of those elements on them. Now, why is that important? Well, first of all, I've got 2 core elements there that are going to be very nice. I've got viral, which is damage amplification towards enemies. So any damage that is going to be incoming is going to be amplified because they're debuffed by virus. And I've also got heat, which against armor basically has a ticking build up towards 2 seconds, which then essentially strips 50% of the enemy armor. So that's also going to be nice. So there's like 2 major kind of core debuffs there. Now, all of the other elements, not super important, but what they can go do is that they can technically buff things on your weaponry. So whether this be primaries, secondaries, or even melees, you will go and have a few specific mods, things like condition overload. So this is like what we go ahead and call it. Now for primaries and secondaries, it's called gun CO, okay? Condition overload basically states that 80% of melee damage, so I get 80% melee damage increase per status type affecting the target. So it doesn't matter if I have 500 heat procs, as long as I've got 1 heat proc, that's going to give me 80% increased damage to this weapon on here. So if I have 2, you get the idea. Well, let's go and bring up the calculator really quickly here on screen. And what we do go ahead and know is that I'm currently applying 7 on mine, all right? So then I go ahead and take 80%, I multiply that by 7. So just in this mod alone, with nothing else on this build, just because of my companion, I am now doing an increase of 560% damage. Does that make sense? Now you can imagine if I start full building this, it's going to work really well. And that can also go towards the fundamentals of primaries and secondaries with their counterparts. I'm just going to click on a random build here and then go ahead and throw things like this. Galvanized aptitudes, and for secondaries, galvanized shot. These do need a kill or two to basically like build it up, but then they last like 20 seconds, whereas on the condition overload on melees, you don't need to go ahead and build it up. All right, anyways, so we're going to utilize that as a primer, which now just basically means he's going to go ahead and throw lots of elements on an enemy to build up my weapon damage. So that's one part that is really good. Okay, now furthermore, can he go and get more than that? Yes. So we can also go ahead and use coolant leak as well. Why? Because it synergizes with arc coil. If arc coil is a 10 meter dealing 100 electric but 10% status chance, so technically that could almost be 8 elements going across there. Coolant leak is a 10 meter but with guaranteed 3 stacks of cold, but then it has a 10-second cooldown. But what's good about that 10-second cooldown? Again, manifold bond, because if we go and apply more than 3 or more statuses on an enemy, and inherently it's got IPS anyways, so we've got 7, 8, whatever elements, as soon as I kill that enemy, I'm just resetting the cooldown. So I can basically go ahead and group up enemies, nuke them, and then this will proc and then re-proc again. So that's what's really cool about that. So you can go and throw those in. But furthermore, if you go ahead and use the momentous bond up here, killing Eximus enemies grants 120% bonus of a random elemental to your companion. Now do go and keep in mind, when it says random, it really truly is random. It means I could go ahead and get a viral increase, even though I don't typically need a viral increase, but it also means I could go ahead and get gas. Whereas I'm not modding for gas, I've got no purpose of gas, but if gas goes and applies onto an enemy, even better, because what happens? My condition overload and so forth scales off it. So we can use this as a primer. So this is going to be very, very good. It's going to work very, very well with a lot of melee related weapons. It can also work pretty well with like close weapon shotgun builds or certain pistols and so forth that are a little bit closer towards enemies, okay? So that's one step, primer. Now the second step is going to be survival. So it's got something here called Guardian. Guardian basically says it boosts owner's shields by 100% when the owner's shield runs out. Now this actually has, I'll put it up on the screen here, but I believe it actually has a 30-second innate cooldown. It doesn't say anything here about having a cooldown, but it does have a cooldown. What did I say about that cooldown earlier? Again, Manifold is going to go and reset anything that is essentially a precept that has a cooldown. Precepts is this symbol. What's that symbol? Precept. So I can actually go ahead and, if I group, like let's say I group lots of enemies, they nuke my shield off me, I kill all those enemies, not only can I go ahead and get this to proc and then they like take it off me, I can probably get it to proc again. So now I've got 2 loops of shield gating really quickly after the however many seconds of invulnerability that I have, as you can imagine. That's one thing. Now, if I also go over towards this weapon over here, I can also go and put in the auger mods. So just by essentially reading the bottom part of the auger mod set, it says 80% of energy spent on abilities is converted to shields. So 80% because I've only got 2 of the auger mods that I can go and slot in here. There's no other auger mods that can go to be slotted in here. So I get 80% for free. So to show you that that works, if you pay attention to the top right hand corner over there, I have 95 shields. If I press my first ability one time, watch my 95 shields, I'm now 184 over shields. So simply by me, if they go ahead and like, imagine the rotation was this, I'll put it on screen if I need to. I have shields, the enemy knocks my shields off me, my companion uses Guardian to re-proc my shields, I then get that Guardian procced off me, so I've got no shields again. I then press my ability, and then I get shields again. Do you see what I mean? So I can now use 2 different loops. One of them's a passive with Guardian, one of them's an active with the Auger set. So I can now go ahead and use that as 2 different forms of shield gate and survival. Now, bear in mind, not all Warframes have shields, okay? Inaros and Nidus inherently and innately do not own shields, okay? I believe there's something you could do with like a Osprey Spectre to go and give them shields, but it's a whole different can of worms, right? So that's basically what I'm doing with those. So that's that kind of little side explained here. Let's go and explain the other things. So if I want to go and get utility and I'm looking for a way to go and sustain my builds, this has actually been a really, really great asset for sustaining a lot of my energy within my builds. Synth Deconstruct. Now it actually states that enemies injured by the companions have a 25% chance to drop a health orb when killed. So keep that in mind. Injured by a companion. I don't need my companion to kill. I just need it to go to do, literally, even if it was 0.01 damage. It's not even a thing, but you get the idea. Even if it was just 1 damage out of the billions of health that they have, it doesn't matter. There's a 25% chance that when they die, I go and get a health orb, which is going to synergize with some Warframe mods that we're going to show you. Furthermore, holstering primary and secondary weapons also reload the magazine per second. So even as a passive, like in the background, it's also reloading my primaries and my secondaries just in the background doing their own thing. Keep in mind, incarding charges won't get reloaded and so forth. That's not how they work, all right? So Synth deconstruct. Now if I go towards my Warframe, what this normally allows me to go and do is do a crossfire. So I do just like, I know it's like I'm doing like a cross like this, but I called it the crossfire because you can kind of see here, left to right and up to down. So let me go and explain what I'm going to take. Because I've got Synth deconstruct, I can go ahead and take equilibrium. Equilibrium allows me to, whenever I go and pick up health orbs, they will go ahead and give me 110% energy. Whenever I go and pick up energy orbs, they give me 110% health. Because of equilibrium having a 25% chance to go ahead and then, you know, so I hit the enemy, 25% chance. When they die, I can get a health orb. I can get some energy coming back from it. So this is a really good way to go ahead and sustain my builds, which is why sometimes you'll see me play so incredibly aggressive in the face of enemies, just because I'm looking for my Diriga to go ahead and arc zap enemies before I then absolutely like nuke them down, whether it be with a melee or an ability or so forth. I will dive on top of enemies on purpose, but this helps me sustain my build so easy, so I don't have energy issues. And I've done multiple level caps, I still don't have energy issues with a lot of different builds because of certain like little additions like this. So because I can go and get lots of energy incoming, I'm obviously going to want to go and run Prime Flow. Now if you don't own Prime Flow, a little cheeky tip for you is you can go and pick up the Archon Flow, not because of everything that the Archon Flow says at the bottom, ignore all of the cold stuff, but because of what the Archon Flow says at the top. It basically says it's 185% energy max. This is also 185% energy max. So if you don't own Platinum to trade other players, or if Barrow Couture has not brought Prime Flow in a while, if you go ahead and get yourself to something called Veil Breaker, if you're a new player, the words I'm saying, Veil Breaker, you'll do something called Coal Missions. Okay, Archon Flow, you can get that from there. That's all I'm going to go and say without like spoiling too much. So that's where you can go and pick it up, okay? So these two are going to work really nicely together, or those two if you need a substitute. Now, what's also really nice about this, because of this and the Synth deconstruct, because my energy is working really nice, this normally allows me to go ahead and dip into Blind Rage, which is the strongest ability strength mod inside the game at 99% overall increase to all of your abilities, but then it has a lower ability efficiency. So yes, abilities, whenever I cast them, are going to cost way more than what they would normally, but that's okay. I don't mind them costing more than normal for 2 reasons. Number 1, because I can sustain myself. And number 2, because this is where the crossfire comes in. Now, Brave Respite is similar to what I was doing with the Organ mods, but what did the Organ mods also say? Well, they said the exact same thing here, but not the percentage. It basically said squad converts 150% of energy spent to shields. Keep that in mind. If I've already got 80% and then I've got 150, I'm getting a lot of shield back whenever I'm pressing the ability, which is very easy to go ahead and build myself back up towards shield gating and like full immunity on top of it. So this is what I call the crossfire, because on top of it as well, if you do want to go and get even more energy back, if you spam a bit more and you don't like do a lot of duration inside your builds, you can go and use Arcane Energize here. On an energy pickup, there's a 60% chance to replenish 150 energy to yourself and allies within 50 meters, and then it enters a 15-second cooldown. But that can also be really good, but only again if you're running a lower, like let's say my duration's kept at 100% now, odds are I'm probably going to want the Energize depending on how ability spam the kit is. Does that make sense? It's a bit hard to tell because like some Warframes are going to spam more, some Warframes are going to spam less. It just depends. But if I'm like on a 200% duration, odds are I may not need the Energize, because even if I'm spamming my abilities, there's got to be a reason why I'm 200%. It basically means I'm going to cast my abilities less frequently, less often. Therefore, I don't need to go ahead and pick this up or put this in. But otherwise, this is called the Crossfire, and that works very well with the Synth deconstruct coming off here. So that helps my build get like back some strength, lots of energy, so forth. So then the other and kind of more so like final-ish thing that is also got going on here is then going to be the Tenacious Bond. Now, Tenacious Bond at the beginning states headshot kills reduce companion recovery time by 3 seconds. Now, this is great if you're using this with gun CO related weapons, so primary, secondaries, cool, that's fantastic. If you're not, then on melees it's a little bit harder to hit it's possible, but it's harder to hit headshots. It depends on the animation of the swing and where you're connecting with them. Furthermore, it does go and state that if the companion's critical chance is over 50%, then you gain a 1.2 times final critical damage multiplier. Now this is really good because this is quite easy to proc. So again, another reason why we go for the burst laser is because of the fact that the burst laser has a really low critical chance of just 20%. But why is that really good? Because I can go and put on something called I think it was called critical delay. It's not, it's called creeping bullseye. If I go put that on, 200% of 20 is what? 60. Right, okay, so we do 20, 40, 60, lovely stuff, which means I'm over 50%. So long as I have that in here as well, every single slot here is being used up, even though it's not shooting this weapon. All of this is passive, all of it in the background, and it's all giving me something. Increased critical damage, increased a ways to go ahead and get shields back on ability cast, and primering with viral and heat for debuff damage amplification, and even shield stripping if I need to. Radiation if I need to go and cause some confusion towards enemies to go ahead and stop them from hitting me, they can hit each other. And magnetic if I also need to go and whittle down some shield with the kind of like viral but on shields kind of amplification as well. So that's also really nice. So as you can go and see here, that's how all of those are proccing. If I want to go and see Tenacious Bond in the top right to make sure that it is procced, you can see it right there. That's how I know that it is active. Gain critical damage based on companion critical chance. And again, that can go over to any of your weapons. Any of your weapons, your primaries, your secondaries, your melees. This is really, really nice to go ahead and get bonus 120% final critical damage on your weapon, which is just so helpful. So 4 things that it's doing there for me, 4 major things that it's basically doing there for me, which are going to be very, very helpful. I've got my notes a little bit up here on screen if you don't mind. Primering, arc coil, manifold, momentous, looking really good. Obviously keep in mind the mods that you put on your weapon is entirely your choice, but you do want to go throw those on there. The radiation, the magnetic, viral heat, all of that stuff, okay? Do keep in mind IPS within the weapon as well is also going to be really good. Survival, guardian, manifolds, go ahead and help reset the guardian on top of it, and even things like auger set as well. All right. Oh, sorry, you also forgot about coolant leak and primer can also go and work. But yes, the auger set with the guardian for your survivability. The utility, the synth deconstruct, the equilibrium, it hits multiple enemies, 25% chance on all of those enemies who have been tickled by the lightning. That's great by me. I go and kill those enemies, I get some energy back by picking up health. Lovely stuff. And then finally we've got the critical with the tenacious ones with a critical chance mod to go ahead and look after myself as well. All right, burst laser, IPS, good critical chance. So overall it's looking really good. Now you'll tend to go and see me use this in a lot of my builds and a lot of my videos and so forth, because it's just so good for that crossfire that allows me to do this on a lot of my Warframes because of the synth deconstruct and the primer and so forth, and again the shield gain, because majority of Warframes have shields, and I don't typically play a lot of Inneros and Nidus myself personally. So ideally, where would I use this? Like if you wanted like a good example, but this will be in his own video going on there, but in like a Calervo build where I'm using a lot of melee damage on top of it. Look at that, the critical damage here is 17.8 times critical damage, not even including the 120% I don't believe is kicked in from the tenacious one that I would essentially be using with it. But you can see how he's there to go and complement something like this. So yes, Calervo, Valkyr, you get the idea. Melee Warframes will absolutely succeed with something like this at its side. There's currently a bug right now. I don't know if he's actually going to shoot when I'm in here, but I can get some gameplay up in a second. Okay, he does go and shoot in here. So imagine me doing like all of this. I go and get my build off on top of it. I mean, I just swung once, like one, you know, if I want to do that. Look at that little 4 mils, 3 mils criticals, and that's not even going over the top. If I'm on certain enemies and I go and hit headshots with the Calervo setup that I've got, it's minus 2.1 billion damage that I can go and do. I've got a few videos that go ahead and showcase that, so you can go and search for them yourself. Anyways, I'll go and get some gameplay up on the screen here to go and talk about the Diriga a little bit more. But yeah, this is my kind of go-to companion. I really have been enjoying it ever since the Bond mods were basically introduced. And again, I wanted to go ahead and give some credit towards DE here for the rework of the companions, because nothing was more frustrating in the olden days where it was just like, are you going to run Helios? Are you going to run Carrier? and are you going to run a Smeater? And that was like near enough it, maybe Panzer more recently. But yeah, you didn't really have an awful lot of choice in terms and variety in terms of the companions you're going to take, because the mods themselves weren't really that impactful. But now look, lo and behold, we've now got these warframes and these weapons and so forth, or sorry, these mods and so forth that complement these warframes and weapons is what I was trying to go and say. So this is phenomenal. I love this kind of stuff. So the Diriga Companion is absolutely, my hat's off towards it. I love this companion, and I want to go and just share it with other people who may also enjoy it. Do I rate this the best companion out there? No. I mean, if I'm biased, then yes, because it does exactly what I want from a companion, but no, because obviously it's not the best damage one. You know, if you want to go and take Verglas with Nautilus or whatever is so forth, you can go and do that. If you're looking for other buffs and utilities, Smeaters, Adazas, whatever so forth, they can also go and do their own things. Even Octolus is really, really good for what he does. So it kind of just depends on what you're looking for. But in terms of utility, given primary and survival and all of that, you can't look much further than Diriga. Phenomenal. I guess the only thing that could be improved would be, instead of being 10 meters zapping, it could be like 20 meters zapping. It's going to help the primary and secondary builds just a little bit more. But yes, when I can go and run this, I'm quite aggressive. So I'm going to go and bring you guys back here. I don't want to go ahead and yap on too much longer, but I just wanted to go and showcase it in case anybody else is looking for a reliable companion that fills up all of its slots. You know, all of those slots that I have in there are pretty much self-explanatory. Well, not so much self-explanatory because I explained them now, so you do understand why I'm taking those ones. I will go and say, because I didn't actually finish this off, but the last 4 that I go and take here are kind of like just your normal utility that you would just run anyways. Primed Animal Instinct basically gives me loot and enemy radar. It's not a necessity, but it is nice. Just go ahead and get, because I tend to open my map big, so I can go and see enemies really far away, so I know which direction to run into. And then Calculated Redirection is because they do have their own form of shield gate, so you essentially are only going to want this because once the companion, especially if you're scaling, the companion at some point is going to die, and if it does die, you don't need to invest lots of health, you don't need to invest lots of other things. At most, you could consider throwing in the accelerated deflection. That's actually not too bad. Again, work with your shield gating, but don't worry about the health and the armor and so forth. It just doesn't add an awful lot towards steel path enemies that are scaling. They will just absolutely shred through the health and the armor of your sentinel. So just go with gating, call it a day. After you're done with the gating, prime regen is absolutely fantastic. Sentinel recovery time is reduced by 35 seconds, revives with 10 seconds of invulnerability, so you get a little bit of iframes as well off of that, which is also just very, very nice. So shorter cooldown, more iframes. And then finally vacuum, but I don't think you guys need me to explain that one, right? This is like a must-have on the build. So all of this is like near enough what I consider my best in slots. Besides from, if you want to go and throw Coolant Leak in here, it's your call. If you want to put that over Momentous, you can do, or if you want to put that over Guardian, you could do, but that's your call. I'd rather put it over Momentous than Guardian. It's going to help my primer and also adding as like a bit of survival, because this essentially is going to give me multiple different elements. This is going to give me a guaranteed element to enemies within 10 meters of me with a bit of a cooldown, so you do want to go and make sure you run those together, okay? But besides from that, there isn't like much else that I can really go and do with it. It's a companion that I really enjoy, so I hope you guys enjoyed this. All right, I'm going to stop rambling. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. A friendly reminder that if you do like this and if you have been using it, first of all, leave a comment. Let me know, how have you guys been finding it? Is this something that you guys particularly enjoy, or is there different builds that you guys are using? Let me know, because I'm always eager to go ahead and learn to see if I can improve things or change things myself. I'm always a student of the game. But if you did go and like the video, please go and like it. Share the video with a friend if you think someone else would go and enjoy a companion like this. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'll catch you guys again inside the next video. Bye everyone. Bye bye.